Hi guys. I don't know if you can see my face right now or not. It's not showing up on my screen, so I'm assuming that you can't, but you can hear my voice, I hope. What we are going to be doing today is reviewing the major passages from Act 1 of Julius Caesar, and then you're going to take the Act 1 quiz. As long as you have answered the questions, if you can see this, the questions on this making sense of Caesar, and you understand that your answers are correct or incorrect. No, you want to have correct answers. But as long as you listen to my discussion as I go through here, I'm going to share with you how I would answer these questions, and that should help you do very well on the quiz. That will be your classroom assignment today. After you do the Act 1 quiz, I need you to read Act 2, Scene 1. That's the other part of your assignment today. So together, we're going to go through and talk about this Making Sense of Caesar kind of resource, and then you'll take the Act 1 quiz. Then you're going to read Act 2, Scene 1. And remember, you're going to use that myshakespeare.com because it's got some awesome resources embedded that will make it much easier for you to decode Shakespearean language and understand the context. There's also fun videos and just a lot of engaging stuff on myshakespeare.com. Okay, so we've already talked, we read Scene 1 together for class on Monday. So let's look at these few questions here. We have the first one, describe the setting of Scene 1. What's the environment like? So if you don't remember, you can look back at your my Julius Caesar page on myshakespeare.com. And what we have here is a description of a bunch of commoners out celebrating in the streets. So we find out that in reading Scene 1, we find out that they're celebrating the festival of Lupercal, which is the god of, I think, not of wine, but it's a celebration, an ancient Roman holiday. So they're celebrating that holiday, but also specifically, they're celebrating Caesar's return to Rome after defeating Pompey. So I'm going to add here, it's a very festive environment. Let's make this a different color. And bold. Okay. People are celebrating in the streets for the festival of Lupercal, also because Caesar is returning home to Rome after defeating Pompey. Okay, look at Marilus's speech in lines 33 through 56. It says page 84 or 824 of the text. That's an old reference, so you don't have to worry about that because you're looking on a website. So just look for lines 33 through 56. This is our first glimpse of conflict in the play. What conflict does he introduce in these lines? I don't know why it says actor bios there. Let's go over here. We're going to look for lines 33 through 56. Wherefore rejoice, what conquest brings he home? What tributaries follow him to Rome to grace in captive bonds his chariot wheels? You blocks, you stones, you worse than senseless things, oh, you hard hearts, you cruel men of Rome, knew you not Pompey? Okay, so he lets us know in these lines that there are going to be people who are angry that Caesar has killed Pompey. So there are going to be some people will resent Caesar because he is the cause of Pompey's death. All right, So that's the main conflict that Marilus introduces in his speech. He also says that you used to stand out here to see great Pompey pass the streets of Rome, and when you saw his chariot, have you not made a universal shout? So you used to celebrate Pompey. He's basically calling them hypocritical and saying they have no loyalty. And now they don't even care that he is dead. What happened to that D? There we go. Okay, so we've answered the questions for scene 1. Now let's look at the questions for scene 2. So we read an important piece of foreshadowing at the very beginning of scene 2. What does the soothsayer mean when he calls out to Caesar, beware the Ides of March? So we need to go to scene 2 in myshakespeare.com. We need to find where the soothsayer is talking. And if it weren't for our nice embedded footnotes, we wouldn't know what that means. But let's just read about it. We hear Caesar. Caesar says, "Ha, who calls?" Casca, "Bid every noise be still. Peace yet again. Who is it in the press that calls on me? I hear a tongue shriller than all the music. Cry, Caesar, speak. Caesar is turned to hear." And the soothsayer says, "Beware the Ides of March." So our embedded side note here tells us Ides means 15th. He's saying beware March 15th. Caesar says, "What man is that?" And Brutus tells him, "A soothsayer, fortune teller, bids you beware the Ides of March." And so Caesar says, "Get him over here. I want to ask him this question. Why are you saying this to me? Speak once again." And the soothsayer just says, "Beware the Ides of March." So, I mean, kind of creepy if you're walking on the street and some strange looking man comes up to you and tells you, watch out on this day. You might think he's crazy, but you might also be a little freaked out by some random person telling you to beware of this day. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that answered. He means watch out on March 15th. And congratulations, now you know an allusion to a very, very famous line. You're going to hear it referenced for the rest of your life, and now you know what it means. Beware the Ides of March. You don't know what's going to happen. Maybe you can predict what's going to happen on March 15th, but we know now what that means. Next question. In the scene, Cassius attempts to convince Brutus to join his plot against Caesar. Read, take out this page number reference because that's incorrect. Read lines 90 through 160, and then we need to find 3 lines that demonstrate Cassius's bitterness and jealousy towards Caesar. So as we read lines 90 through 160, let's figure that out. Jealousy and bitterness, not good emotions, right? Cassius says, "I know that virtue to be in you, Brutus, as well as I do know your outward favor," meaning I know your face just as well as I know how good you are inside. "Well, honor is the subject of my story. I cannot tell what you and other men think of this life, but for my single self, I had as lief not be as live to be, so I'd rather not be alive in awe of such a thing as myself." So I'm not going to worship another man, is what he's saying. "I was born free as Caesar, so were you. We have both fed as well. We can both endure the winter's cold as well as he. For once upon a raw and gusty day, the troubled Tiber chafing with her shores, Caesar said to me, 'Darest thou, Cassius, now leap in with me into this angry flood and swim to yonder point?' So he says, 'Do you dare me? You want to jump in this river and swim low there on this cold day?' Upon the word. Accountered as I was, so armed as I was, I plunged in and bade him follow. So indeed he did. So he says, we both jumped in this river in the cold. They did a little polar plunge. They were the OGs of the polar plunge. The torrent roared, and we did buffet it with lusty sinews, a very Shakespearean way of saying, hey, we are strong macho men, and we swam across the shores, or from one shore to the other, throwing it aside and stemming it with the hearts of controversy. But ere we could arrive the point proposed, Caesar cried, help me, Cassius, or I sink. So we're swimming across this river. It's cold. The river is trying to take us away, and Caesar almost drowned. Then look at line 112. I, as Aeneas, our great ancestor, did from the flames of Troy upon his shoulder the old Anchises bear. So from the waves of Tiber did I, the tired Caesar. And this man is now become a god? And Cassius is a wretched creature and must bend his body of Caesar carelessly, but not on him? So he's like, I freaking saved this loser. He couldn't even swim across the river. I'm the one that saved his life. So he's making a point like, hey, I'm stronger. I'm more athletic. I'm better fit to be worshipped than Caesar. So there's one good example that we can write down for this question, where he's specifically saying a way that he is bitter or jealous. So he says, come on. He saved Caesar when Caesar almost drowned in the river. He pinned him because he's like, hey, let's jump in this cold river and swim across. It was his idea to begin with, right? But he saved Caesar. He could have let him drown, but instead, he did the right thing, right? So he saved Caesar. And then he says, and now, and this man is now become a god. Such a great line. So this man, this loser who can't even swim across the river that I had to save from drowning, now he's a god, and Cassius, which is himself, he's speaking with a third person. So this man has now become a god, and Cassius is a wretched creature. And this next line, you guys, this is kind of a innuendo. You know what innuendo means? It means like it has more, it's like a double meaning, right? So Cassius now, I must bend my body, meaning you've probably heard the expression like somebody just expects me to bend over. Kind of a vulgar expression, but that's exactly what Shakespeare's saying here. So, or Cassius. Cassius must bend his body of Caesar carelessly, but not on him. Okay. This man has become a god, and I am a wretched creature. Love it. All right, so that's one good example. Let's keep reading because we're going to line 160 to find a few other examples. He had a fever when he was in Spain, and when the fit was on him, I did mark how he did shake. 'Tis true, this god did shake. His coward lips did from their color fly, and that same eye whose bend doth all the world did lose his luster. I did hear him groan, aye, and that tongue of his that bade the Romans mark him and write his speeches in their books. Alas, it cried, give me some drink, Titinius, as a sick girl. Ye gods, it doth amaze me, a man of such a feeble temper should so get the start of the majestic world and bear the palm alone. Okay, so he almost drowned in the river. And then when we were in Spain, this weak little girl of a man, which I take offense to that, okay? Little girls can be tough. But so when he was sick in Spain, he cried like a sick girl. And it says he groaned. And he calls him feeble, groaned, and shook like a feeble man who doesn't deserve respect he gets from Roman citizens. Okay, so we got 2 examples. We need to keep going though, because we're looking for one more. Do you hear just how awful Cassius sounds? He sounds so bitter and resentful and just like someone who's not secure in himself. You know, if you're confident and secure in yourself, you don't have to sit around and talk smack about other people. But that's exactly what he's doing about Caesar. He's trying to prove that he's better than Caesar. Like, listen to all these ways that Caesar sucks. I'm just going to badmouth him and tell you everything that I know, everything that made me lose respect for him. That's what's happening right now. Cassius is having his little fit. Okay, so another shout comes out. Brutus says, I do believe these applauses are for some new honors that are heaped on Caesar. Like, geez, they just can't stop. Cassius says, why, man, he doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus, and we petty men walk under his huge legs and peep about to find ourselves dishonorable graves. Men at some time are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings. See, hey, that's a John Green reference. Did you get it? Actually, John Green alluded to Julius Caesar when he wrote his book and named it The Fault in Our Stars. See, text-to-text connection. Brutus and Caesar. What should be in that Caesar? Why should that name be sounded more than yours? Write them together. Yours is a fair name. Sound them, it doth become the mouth as well. Weigh them, it says heavy. Conjure with them. Brutus will start up a spirit as soon as Caesar, now in the names of all the gods at once. Upon what meat doth this our Caesar feed that he's grown so great? So, like, what kind of magic beans is he eating that's going to grow him up to be so perfect and worshipped? Age, thou art shamed. Rome, thou hast lost the breed of noble bloods. When went there by an age since the great flood, but it was famed with more than one man? When could they say till now that talked of Rome that her wide walls encompassed but one man? So he's saying Rome is too big to worship one person. Now it is Rome indeed, and room enough when there is in it but only one man. Oh, you and I have heard our father say there was a Brutus once that would have brooked the eternal devil to keep his state in Rome as easily as a king. So he's telling Brutus, like, you used to be a man that wouldn't have stood for this. What has happened to you, Brutus? That's kind of a low blow, right? So to say, like, you're not the same as you used to be. You wouldn't, back in the day when you were a better man, you wouldn't have allowed Rome to worship Caesar without trying to take him down a notch. Okay, so the other thing that we could write here, I mean, you could write a couple of different things, but I think what I'm going to say is that the name Caesar, so Caesar is no better than Brutus. His name isn't special, just like he isn't special. All right, so let's look at this next question to paraphrase the following. For the present, so Brutus says to Cassius, for this present, I would not so be further moved. What you have said, I will consider. What you have to say, I will with patience hear, and find a time both meet to hear and answer such high things. So let's see if we have any side notes to help us understand that. Oh, Brutus is Brutus is a good dude. He's very calm and tempered. He doesn't want to rush into things. Cassius is just like bitter and nasty and wants to mouth about people. Brutus also has the same concerns as Cassius, but he's not going to lash out about them. He wants to make wise decisions. So Brutus says, look, you Cassius, the angry spot doth glow on Caesar's brow, and all the rest look like a chidden train, a scolded train. No, I'm not going to talk about that part. We're going to skip past what Caesar says. I'm trying to find where Brutus says that. What? I guess I skipped over it. Okay. 174. Well, duh. I'm sorry. The line was referenced on there. Here we go. So Brutus' response to Cassius right after that. Sorry, we wasted a minute or so of your time. Brutus says, that you do love me, I'm nothing jealous. So I don't doubt that you love me. What you would work me to, I have some aim. So I see what you want me to do here. And I have the same ideas. How I've thought of this and of these times I shall recount hereafter. So we can talk later about this. For this present, I wish not to. So with love, I might entreat you be any further moved. So basically be patient is what he's trying to say. So I'm going to listen to you patiently. We'll find such a time to meet to hear and answer such high things. So we'll find a more appropriate time to talk about this. So basically, I'm going to paraphrase what he says by saying, like, I hear what you're saying. And I will consider it. We need to think carefully and discuss this at a more appropriate time. Okay. My best paraphrase for that. The next question asks, what inferences can you make about Brutus's nature from his response to Cassius? So, as I said before, his response shows us that he is more even-tempered than Cassius, for sure. He is calm and cautious with his actions. He wants to be led by wisdom as opposed to his emotions. All right, so next question. Ask about lines 192 to 214. Caesar expresses some suspicion of Cassius. Among other things, he confides to Antony that Cassius has a lean and hungry look and comments that men as he be never at heart's ease when they behold a greater than themselves. Because of this, Caesar deems Cassius to be very dangerous. So why would these qualities make Cassius dangerous? To describe him as lean and hungry, he's kind of speaking metaphorically. Hungry for power, hungry for he's hungry with ambition, right? So they're never at heart's ease when they behold a greater than themselves. Well, Caesar is a greater than Cassius at this point, right? He has the power that Cassius does not. He is the Roman emperor. So I'm going to say if Cassius is hungry for power, that means I'm going to take a bachelor/bachelorette expression here and say that Caesar has a target on his back. Because Caesar is currently the sole ruler of Rome. Okay. I'm going to to scoot this over so that you guys can see all that I'm typing. Okay, read Cassius's soliloquy at the end of scene 2. What can you predict about Cassius's intentions from reading these lines? Okay, let's go and check this out. A soliloquy, remember, is when a character gives a monologue on stage and they are alone or they think that they're alone. Where are you, Cassius? At the end, here we go. So after Brutus exits now, Cassius is alone on stage. So remember, Brutus says, like, we're going to talk about this later. So after he leaves, Cassius says, well, Brutus, thou art noble, yet I see thy honorable metal may be wrought from that it is disposed. So metal is like a temperament. So your honorable temperament may be wrought and may be manipulated. Therefore, it is meet or appropriate that noble minds keep ever with their likes. For whom so firm that cannot be seduced. So he's like, I see you're honorable, but you better hang out with honorable people because I can manipulate that honor, my friend. I can make you do what I want you to do. That's what he's saying here. Caesar doth bear me hard, but he loves Brutus. If I were Brutus now and he were Cassius, he should not humor me. I will this night, and several hands at his windows throw as if they came from several citizens. Writings, all tending to the great opinion that Rome holds of his name, wherein obscurely Caesar's ambitions shall be glanced at. So ambition in this play, ambition is bad because they see ambition as him trying to get ultimate power, right? Caesar trying to get ultimate power. And if he wants ultimate power, that means that he thinks that his needs and his desires are what's more important than Rome. So Cassius says he's going to write all of these letters and throw them into Brutus's window so that Brutus is opening them up from random citizens, even though he's writing them all. He's catfishing Brutus, basically. So Cassius is going to write these notes that say, hey, we think that you're phenomenal. We think that you are an honorable man, Brutus. You have Rome's best interest at heart, and we don't think that Caesar does. Caesar just wants to be the king. He wants to be the emperor. He doesn't care about the citizens of Rome. So that's his plan. And then it says, after this, let Caesar seat him sure. The footnote says, let him brace himself, for we will shake him, or worse days endure. So Cassius is like laying it out there. It's very clear he wants to overthrow Caesar. He wants to get Caesar out of power. Let me write that here. Crap, I don't think that's going to work. Nope, sure won't. But I'll fix it. Okay. Cassius wants to get Caesar out of power. And he plans to manipulate Brutus to make that happen. Okay, just a few more questions, guys. For scene 3, which is much shorter, what's the deal that Cassius and Casca strike in scene 3? So let's go and check it out. Come on, my Shakespeare. You can do it. So it tells us lines 89 through 130. What's the deal that they strike? Cassius says, I know where I will wear this dagger then. Cassius from bondage will deliver Cassius. So I'm not going to be a slave anymore. Therein, ye gods, ye make the weak most strong. Therein, ye gods, you tyrants do defeat. Nor stony tower, nor walls of beaten brass, nor airless dungeon, nor strong links of iron can be retentive to the strength of spirit. He says, nothing can hold me down. But life, being weary of these worldly bars, never lacks power to dismiss it. If I know this, know all the world besides, that part of tyranny that I do bear, I can shake off at pleasure. So he says, I am not dealing with your crap anymore. I'm not taking this. Casca says, so can I. So every bondman in his own hand bears the power to cancel his captivity. So this is like they're saying, we don't have to be slaves to Caesar anymore. Cassius says, and why should Caesar be a tyrant then? Poor man, I know he would not be a wolf, but that he sees that Romans are but sheep. So he can't be a wolf if we aren't sheep anymore. He's like, he can't, if he has no slaves, he can't be the slave master. He were no lion, were not Romans hinds. Those that with haste will make a mighty fire, begin it with weak straws. What trash is Rome, what rubbish and what awful, when it serves for the base matter to illuminate so vile a thing as Caesar? But, O grief, where hast thou led me? I perhaps speak this before a willing bondman. So he says, maybe I'm talking to a willing slave. Then I know my answer must be made, but I am armed, and dangers are to me indifferent. He's like, I'm not scared of nothing. And so Casca, he's trying to manipulate Casca. Casca says, you speak to Casca. Like, I'm Casca. Are you calling me a slave? So he says, to such a man, that is no fleering telltale. So he's like, hey, I'm not going to tattle on you. Hold my hand. And he's not saying like, hold my hand, darling. He's saying, shake my hand. Be factious for redress of all these griefs. So let's join together. And I will set this foot of mine as far as who goes the farthest. So nobody's going to be more loyal to this cause than me. So they shake hands. Cassius says, there's a bargain made. Now I know you, Casca. I have moved already some certain of the noblest minded Romans to undergo with me an enterprise of honorable, dangerous consequence. And I do know by this they stay for me in Pompey's porch. So they're waiting for me, these noble Romans. For now, this fearful night, there is no stir or walking in the streets because there's a storm going on. And the complexion of the element in favors like the work we have in hand, most bloody, fiery, and most terrible. Okay, so the deal that they strike, they are not going to let Caesar be the slave master anymore. They're not going to be slaves. They're going to uprise against him, right? They shake hands on a plot to take out Caesar. They won't be slaves to him any longer, is what they say. At the end of Act 1, Cassius and Casca exchange a few final words about their plot, expressing a key element of the plan, the cooperation of Brutus. So let's read lines 153 through 165 and explain why Brutus is a crucial part of the conspiracy. 153 to 165. Here we go. Cassius says, come, Casca, you and I will yet ere day. So before day breaks, we're going to see Brutus at his house. 3 parts of him is ours already, and the man entire upon the next encounter yields him ours. So he's almost there. We have 75% of him already. Casca says, oh, he sits high in all the people's hearts, and that which would appear offense in us, his countenance, like richest alchemy, will change to virtue and to worthiness. So he sits high in all the people's hearts. That means people have a great opinion of him. They love Brutus. So if we would say something that would be offensive, he could say the same thing and people would be like, oh, he makes a good point. So people love him is what's being said here. Cassius responds and says, him and his worth and our great need of him. You have right well conceded, meaning you understand. Let us go, for it's after midnight, and ere day we will awake him and be sure of him. So they need Brutus. And why do they need Brutus? Because the people love him. The people recognize his honor and his virtue. Okay, cool. So this last question, we're actually not going to answer it right now. That's going to be a question that you answer for class on Friday. So that's all you need to know to be well prepared for the quiz today that will be posted. I'm going to go ahead and post this video on Classroom, give you some time to watch it, and then I'll be posting the quiz soon, okay? I hope you guys are doing well. Please let me know if you have questions or if you need help with anything. And I will see your faces on Friday. Bye, guys.